That was embarrassing. Happy New Year, everyone with the BAFSAF family. Welcome back. We are on the first episode of BAFSAF for the year of 2024. Remember, BAFSAF is be a friend, seek a friend, and that's what we're here for, to help others or to help ourselves, get help. Hold on, it's a little quiet here. There we go. Yeah. So anyway, before I get carried away with that, how are you? How have you been? How are the holidays? What is up? I would love to know. I'd love to hear about it. Let me go ahead and get this pulled up on my end. So, I can initiate guest appearances once again. I'd like to go back to doing that. I haven't really given myself the opportunity to allow that to happen, and I don't like that. Not one bit. Got that set up so when I'm ready to allow guests, we will do so. But until then, so let me get a lay of my room real quick because I don't want nobody seeing anything they don't need to see. All right, well, I hope everyone had a good holidays. Hope it was safe and overall great. Mine was decent. Had some goods, had some okays. Nothing really bad, you know. But you know. So yeah, holidays holidays were good. You know, I wanted to kind of see where everyone was, you know, like getting everything for Christmas, but that was last year. We're on to a new year. I didn't actually do anything for New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. I don't care for that, really. You know, to be festive for the channel and such, you know, I'd like to ask and kind of be about that for the people, but me personally, I don't care. Time is the construct, and it's just gonna keep going and going and going. The fact that we have to start our lives, start our hopes and dreams on day one of the year, you know, like keep it going. Start on the last day of last year, start 2 days before the new year. I don't know, I think it's just being able to change the mindset to saying, hey, you know, we can be a little more progressive, but that's what we're here for. We're here to learn all that. We're here to understand it's easy, it's okay, you know, where we're at in our place in time, no matter how old you are. Yes, tomorrow is a different day, but you can always start now. And you know, starting mentally, starting emotionally, starting physically, whatever it is, it can happen now for the most part. I don't know, you know, I don't really know what you're trying to start, so you know, it could be like, oh, I'm trying to run a Fortune 500 company. I don't know what to like, what that looks like to start, but you know, maybe write something. What I wanted to discuss is that this year, with it being the start of the new year, going back on my word, but you know, since we all tend to have a point where we start everything, we start anew, start fresh, you know. I wanted to take this year to kind of not only help others but help myself level up in a sense, you know, like have a personal growth. You know how every year we would hear people say, "Oh, this is my year. This is my year," right? Well, I want to help make it your year. At least get closer to it, you know. I was given the opportunity, the vision, and all of that, you know, to start what I wanted to do last year. A little late, but you know. So I just want to be able to give back what I've experienced and learned. Right at this moment, I want you to kind of think about what it is that you've been wanting to happen. What's a goal that you've set for this year? Whether it's in the next month, in the next 3 months, the you know, till the summer or the remainder of the year. And I want you to put that energy towards me in this channel. We're gonna figure out how we can help each other out. I have my hopes and dreams and goals. Hope you have some of your own. If not, we can think of something. I mean, but it doesn't have to be anything big. It could be something small. Like for me, I plan on getting Tekken 8. you know, it comes out, what is it, January 26th. So, see, but that's a small goal. It's a bit mid for me because I'm not the one working. So, um, if it's in the cards, I'm gonna get that. But we'll see. Or it could be something big, you know. It doesn't have to be as big as that Fortune 500 method I was spitting earlier. But you know, if you're trying to start a business and maybe you're having some issues mentally, like there's a block, or maybe you're having trouble believing in yourself to take the next step, I want to be able to help the best that I can. But just kind of give you an idea of what I'm reaching for the year. I've gone over it, but I don't mind doing it again. I want to put out the videos of the stream a lot quicker. I mean, I've been behind. I've allowed things to put me behind. I've allowed myself to be behind. Still catching up with the last, what, 4 or 5 now of BAFSAF, and then there's like 2 or 3 with Sketch and Catch featuring Trey. But they're all coming. And after that, everything will be posted a lot sooner because now that I understand the process, I think I have a better method that'll allow me to achieve what I'm looking for, you know. I also want to have more social interactions. I really want to use the actual page for my Cam Social instead of my own personal page. But I have to get comfortable with being able to find people and venture out. Anyone who has a like-mindedness, I got to be able to have something that people can be like, oh yeah, that's funny, or oh yeah, I relate to that. Oh yeah, I understand you. You never will, but you'll say it. And then also, I want to get some more Spotlight Social guests. I want to be able to. I have a couple in mind, but I just got to talk to people. Just, hey, you know, I'd like to put you on here if that's cool. I like to be respectful in that sense because some people might not want to say yes. You know, I'm not big enough. They'll be like, why waste the time? Or they have their own reservations. I don't know. Won't speak on that for anyone, but we're gonna try to get more people in there. It's just a lot of. I got to be okay with the workload, but I also have to understand when to not to put too much on my plate. I think I was talking to Sean one day, and then I was able to understand, speaking to him, that I may just be overwhelming myself, and I hide it with a different like emotion or outlook. But I guess I just don't want to admit the fact that I'm just doing too much. And I think, you know, not only am I doing all this, you know, I think it just had a couple of other extra things going on at the time, but got to be able to learn how to stay on my schedule and not let anyone or anything kind of, you know, interrupt it, because I kind of have to think of it like work, you know. Like, I'm not just gonna let people come and tell me to take off work, so I can't let people tell me to or allow me to feel like I can pull away from this, because I believe in it. And, you know, even if I have to hand it off to someone else, like we'll get it somewhere. But I also have my personal endeavors as well, but it's all kind of tied in because this is me. This is what we're doing. So the topic for the month is humble beginnings, and it's not what you think. This is going to be our beginning, our humble beginning, but I want to kind of steer you, the viewer, in the right path of being able to understand what it is to be humble, how you can achieve being humble, how you keep it, how you manage it. You know, not a lot of us understand what it is, or maybe we seek it. We internally seek that characteristic, that profile. We just don't know how to go about it. Or, you know, maybe you just need that kick in the rear. I will put on my boot for you. So, as I was saying, basically, you know, this is our fresh start, 2024. So we're going to start in the mindset of being humble, because if I can help you, the viewer, want to understand how to be humble, or even just seek that, or just kind of take a few characteristics from the profile, it'll go a long way. And then you can take it off on your own to the point to where you won't even know or remember that you even heard it from me. I won't even take credit, and I'm perfectly fine with that. It's not about the credit, it's just about being able to help people find their next step. And this also helps me too, so I'm not up here tooting my own horn. I'm not anywhere near shape successful, but I understand what it looks like and I want to achieve it, but I'm going to bring some people with me. So let's just start off with what is being humble? How do we define being humble? I will give you an exact definition in just a moment, but I will tell you what I thought or feel being humble is. To me, whenever I think of the term or idea of being humble, I kind of think of monks, or like, you know, the guys who have a bunch of wisdom and they kind of seem a little out there to people, but they have the best, you know, attitudes. They may seem a little annoying because everyone kind of takes things too seriously. Where am I going with this? So, you know, whenever I think of humble, I think of those kind of guys because, in a sense, like, they see things differently. They see the good and bad, but to remain neutral is just a job on its own. It's easy to, you know, lean towards a good or a bad. So when you remain neutral, in your humble light or a glow, it kind of gives you the opportunity to, and the ability, to see things more thoroughly. There you go. See things more thoroughly. There's a sense of judgment when it comes to having to choose a side. Then you just kind of gravitate towards things and you kind of alleviate away from being able to understand a situation or person with a little more clarity. Not only that, that's part of being humble, but I think being humble in a whole sense to me is just being able to appreciate and understand what you have with no expectations, and as well as people, being able to appreciate and understand people. I mean, it's just, when you talk about being humble, it can be so broad. So I guess I have a hard time trying to put it into one whole definition. But luckily, like I said, we're going to actually find what the definition of being humble means. All right, so the adjective of humble, in a comparative or superlative adjective, having or showing a modest or low estimate of one's own importance. For an example, he was humble about his stature as one of rock's history's most influential guitarists. I said that wrong. Of an action or thought offered with or affected by a modest estimate of one's own importance, or it can be of low social, administrative, or political rank, or of a thing of modest pretensions or dimensions. So modesty or humility. So something I saw earlier was humility is also humble. Some things to consider when it comes to being humble, I felt in particular, was karma. If you want to understand anything about being humble or having humility or being modest, it's to think about karma. And the definition of karma, to what I remember and understand, it's what goes around. Well, that's not a definition. The saying of karma is what goes around comes around. To understand humility is to understand karma. So if you're putting anything out there, in an energy sense, even active, if you are acting in a negative nature, understand negativity will be brought back to you. It's like a boomerang effect. If you haven't been able to understand anything I've said up to this point, think of it as a boomerang. You throw it, it comes right back. Yes, life is all about balance. That's the key to life. It's just to balance everything that you want, everything that you have, everything that you can achieve. When it comes to karma, you know, what goes around comes around, cause and effect, right? You're not meant to do everything perfect. You're not meant to always be right. You make the mistakes so you can understand how not to make them, or how to see that they're in the midst of being made so you can correct them. And not only are you correcting yourself, but you can allow people that you meet or know to understand how not to get themselves in those situations as well. And that explanation in turn can also be good karma. You know, say, hey, I did this, but to help you not ever get to that point, look for this, look for that, don't do this, don't do that. That's a sign of good karma, because you're putting out that good energy for it to return back to you. The reason why I felt karma was such a big deal when it comes to humility and being humble is that I think, honestly, to be humble, you remain in a neutral state. You know, um, you understand that there's good and bad, but I think it's just to kind of keep from having to define anything as good and or bad. You're just kind of, you know, I think being humble has levels. It does allow to promote an understanding of people and life in general, more of which we'll get into here in a moment. But I think personally, when someone is humble enough and you have an understanding of how the world kind of operates and how history repeats itself, not just in events but people as well, um you have a sense of being able to understand the right and wrong, the good and bad, the ups and downs, but you don't really have anything to judge off of it. You just kind of know that there are obstacles, there are paths, I should say, paths that allow you to either go left or go right, in a sense of good and bad, you know, not just like, oh, I can't go straight. Of course you can. I think being in a neutral state, you don't allow yourself to be rushed by making the choice. Some of us, we make rash decisions based on impulse, and then we end up with being in a karmic cycle because you know, the choice can probably be made based on an emotional investment that was out of what, greed, privilege, neglect, just, you know, a few characteristics to want to make something out of her in what's the word, quickly, trying to be smart here, but quickly, in haste. There we go. That's the one I was looking for. But I'm gonna go ahead and keep going in the order that I have here so I don't get all mixed up and spill everything out at the same time. But that's why I would say one thing to consider, one major thing to consider about having humility and being humble is karma. I feel like if you can think about anything when it comes to being humble, it's karma. Like, and the thing about karma and humility is that you don't do things in the light that you want good things to happen to you. It's a natural stemming that resonates within you to say, okay, this feels right. This needs to be done. This should be done. I should do this. I should do that. Not, oh, if I do this, this will happen. If I do this, that'll happen. Just knowing that you're being called to make an action, or even, yeah, to make an action, and put in place good energy. Another thing to consider is your action or reaction. With your actions, are you doing it for the greater good? Are you doing it for selfish reasons? Are you doing it out of spite or revenge? Or in the same way, in the same light of all those, how are you reacting? Your reaction to a lot of things could also hinder you from achieving anything, you know, a lot. And it can also keep you in a cycle outside of being humble. A lot of us tend to react to, you know, certain things differently. But there's always a few categories, I should say, that a lot of us will react in the same way. For instance, If you had a younger family member and you knew that someone was harming that family member, a lot of us, especially men, would want to react the same way. But I feel like the start of being humble will allow you to understand when to move and when not to move. And as you ascend to a higher level of being humble and having humility, you start to realize that not everything requires or deserves you interacting with it. A few things that I wanted to discuss today about being humble will revolve around money, relationships, work, life, and material. I am going to have to freestyle work, life, and material, but I've kind of got some things down for money and relationships. And in relationships, meaning, you know, friends, family, love, pets, whatever. Why is being humble so important? Well, I believe that it will help with understanding life and others, and I fully stand behind that. It promotes healthy practices and balances in life, and it can also be a gravitating characteristic. So, you know, in a sense of healthy balances and practices, you know, let's make it easy. If I were to be streaming and playing video games all the time, every day, hours a day, understand I have a family and a wife. It would be pretty selfish of me to game all day for my pleasure and not leave enough time to spend with them. So a healthy balance that I have is, you know, 11 o'clock Central Standard Time on the weekends. She's usually working weekends. The kids shouldn't be up past 11, but you know, I've got the little light skinned one running around in and out the damn room. What can you do? I'll play. Yeah, but that's just a good example of how to balance things. So, you know, around all schedules in the house, I've been able to supplement myself with being able to game and also stream at the same time. Because if I didn't, I'd hear the complaints of the wife, and I don't want to hear that, you know. Why? Who wants to hear that? No, I don't. You come on. Outside of me and gaming, you know, let's say a way to balance is like, let's say you have a thing for shopping. If you're single and all you do is hang out with friends, you go, girl. Get your shop on. As long as you have enough to, you know, pay the bills, you know, eat. If you want to go out, you can go out comfortably. If you've got a family, if you've got responsibilities, pets, you got bills, and you out there just splurging that money, you come home with $5 in your pocket. Well, that wasn't the best decision. That wasn't the best thing to do, was it? You got to find a healthy balance, right? A good way with money is allowance. Give yourself an allowance. I know you made all that money on your own, but you can give yourself an allowance. Put some to the side and say, hey, I've worked my 9 to 5, my 5 days a week. Put this money to the side. This is my bills paycheck. I can go spend this, or I can wait until the utilities check and then spend a little more. I don't know, however you want, however you see fit. That's a good way to balance, right? And then, you know, when it comes to being humble, it creates this profile within you that people gravitate towards too. Because you have this light that everything is okay. Even in the darkest of times, people know that everything can be okay when they're with you, when they speak to you. And yes, let me say this right now. It is a burdening characteristic, because think of it how let's put emotions into a light bulb or a flame and then let loose a bunch of moths. I'm not saying people are moths, but in that sense, do you think that the light bulb or flame enjoys having so many insects fly around it, hitting it like an idiot? Light bulb, moth, why are you still hitting me? Yes, being humble and just being a neutral party, it does have a burdening characteristic of the profile, because people will be like, oh, hey, you just got to be able to be firm and neutral. That's for another conversation, another day, probably in the next 2 weeks. But it's definitely one that it's not also gravitational, but admired. People will also try to want to be like you. That's humbling. Yeah. We know some people like that. It could even be you, but you may start to understand, oh, why do I have so many people who want to be around me, talk to me, want my attention all the time? I just want some peace. It's because you have this energy that they want to feed off of. And it's weird to say in that sense, especially people that you think are good, but they like you a lot. When you're able to feed people that kind of energy, they'd have to understand how to receive it, because if they're just receiving it as nourishment, they're going to need more. Because that means they've just opened up an unsatisfactory hole that can't be filled. It will always need to be replenished. But if they receive it in the sense that they are learning to gain wisdom from you, then they close that gap and then they start to fill. But the thing is, when it comes to them feeling that container within them, it expands, so they have more to give, not just back to you, but to other people, because that's what knowledge and wisdom does. It expands everything within you so you can learn more, to give more. So let's get into it, right? Let's go ahead and start off with, since we have income tax time, income tax season coming around, let's talk about humble money. So I think to understand humility and being humble when it comes to the economy, commerce, money, finances, bada bing. It's not about the amount. I think you have to understand the amount that you have, and this is not for everyone. I'll just start by saying that what you have, you should be able to utilize to get what you want. If you don't have enough to substantiate what you need or what you want, maybe you might need to let some things go. I will say this, and I will always say this: anyone that's in America that doesn't seek how to survive outside of the normal way of living is all privileged. We are all privileged, because if you don't know how to, and I'm sitting here saying if you don't, as if I know. I don't. I'm learning, but I want to learn just in case anything happens. If you aren't allowing yourself to learn or understand how to survive outside of the materials that are provided to us, then you have to understand that you're privileged. Let's say, for instance, easy one for me. I've heard some rappers throughout time say that they've never had a pot to piss in, meaning they didn't have a toilet, which sucks, right? Because if you think about it, when the first toilet was created, it made it so much easier. But to remember how they used the restroom before toilets, holes in the ground. It was so serious. That, or behind a tree or something, I don't know. But like, understanding that a toilet is nothing but material for us. We're privileged with a toilet. We're privileged with a sewage system. That's pretty deep for me, because I had to sit there and be comfortable with why I thought that. But once I came to understanding why I felt that way, in my own way of understanding the humility of it, it kind of allowed me to understand how good I have it with how little I have. But I have a bunch of stuff. If I was to pan this camera around this entire room, this is mostly all my stuff. Everything that I own is in, well, most things that I own is in this room. But I have a lot of stuff. I even thought about getting rid of a lot of it. And the thing is that you don't even see everything that I have. Like all the stuff that's up, then is like maybe a third of it that you see. I have stuff throughout the house and in the backyard and everything, but I have a lot of stuff. But I know I have a lot of stuff. I know, and I'm very aware that if I was to lose everything, well, I have family, I have friends, but I want to also know that I can make it out there by surviving, getting my own food, you know, filtering my own water, making my own, what do you call it, shelter. And then just not feeling like I need to, off the grid living, you know, feeling like I don't need to have any electronics or power. Off the grid living. Everything that requires a power source, internet, a dishwasher, that's all privileged material that's been bestowed upon us. It makes life so much simpler, but so much more to manage. Another thing about humble money is when you understand that your necessities are fulfilled, you may want to use what's left on others. Holidays is a good example. Throughout the year, you might save up, or you just might work a little extra around the holidays so you can buy people gifts. But that's kind of like where I'm at with that point. You've made enough, and you're like, oh, I can get a gift for this person, get a gift for that person. Everyone in the house gets 3 gifts, but outside the house, we'll give one person each gift. And then you start listing out who's outside the house. Holidays are always a good example, because if you're doing it out of the genuine kindness of your heart, that's very humble. But then there's the people like, oh, if I get them a gift, I will expect one back bigger this year or next year. That's a waste of money. To give one just to think that you're going to get anything bigger in return, that's a waste of money. Just go buy it yourself. And then the idea that people think that they are to receive a gift even though they've given a gift. Just the fact that like, oh, no one got me anything, but I gave everyone else a gift. That's why it's called a gift. Because you give it without thinking that there's going to be a return. If you wanted a return, then it would be a trade. Wouldn't be a gift. By then, there's no point in wrapping it. Just say, here, now where's mine? Or hey, let's set something up. I go out buy you something, and you buy me here what I wanted. And then you trade. But then what's the point in trading? Because you can just buy it yourself. And then also knowing that you didn't receive a gift, but you're appreciative that people around you receive gifts. You can enjoy the fact that people are still in their hearts practicing the ideology of being able to, you know, exchange gifts, especially for kids. When you can be the one and just sit there and watch people open gifts and watch the reactions, and you just go, this is nice. Or however it is you feel. I don't want to say how you feel. But when you can be the one to sit there and just watch people open gifts, and there's just, you know, there's no hate, no negativity, no I wish, I should have. You just bask in the moment. That's humble. Another point about humble money is that when you're living check to check, that's a humbling experience. I should know. And if anyone else is watching knows, you may be able to say the same thing. When you have lived check to check, boy, it don't tell you something. If it didn't, you're not listening. Because when it comes to living check to check, you get some insight on having what matters the most. Like, you have to prioritize things. Okay, I've got the water bill paid, got the electricity bill paid. Rent's due. Got that taken care of. Need to go ahead and grab some of these little groceries so I can eat. Don't want to eat out because that's way more expensive. And then here are all the extras. Internet. Um, we'll go ahead and put phone in necessities because just in case of emergencies. Internet, having that Wi-Fi. The video games. Going out, or even an extra is to treat yourself. Go get you some fast food or dine in. Do dine in. Don't do fast food. Yeah. Just had McDonald's the other day. I don't know what I'm saying. But you are forced to prioritize what needs to be taken care of. You are forced to adhere to your responsibilities. Now, if you're one person who ignores your responsibilities, then you're not going to hear what I'm saying. But I hope that you would, or at least you get to a point to where you can say it and then you listen to yourself. But the thing is that when you're put in that corner of responsibility, it does in fact take someone who's got some backbone. Because if you can't handle it, you buckle, and then you'll be a roommate to some people who will only complain because you are the same way that you are when you were doing it alone, or even when you had a roommate and you just can't keep up with your end of the deal, or living with family. You know, as an adult, you don't realize how much of in the way that you can be when you're not helped. And depending on who it is that you're living with, they'll let you know. But when some people ignore that, I think that's what really rubs people the wrong way, is that, you know, especially if you're not the clean type. If you're not the clean type and you're not taking care of your responsibilities, it almost just seems like you're very self-absorbed in the sense that you just need to be taken care of. And that could really upset some people, but that it's definitely a descending level, of away from being humble and having humility. Like, to have humility is to understand that you have been kind of a hindrance, but you want to help in any way, shape, or form until you can get on your feet to be able to help financially. And, you know, instead of sitting around, especially sitting around eating up all the food and complaining when you're not putting a dime into your living circumstances, that can really upset people. You don't want that. Also, when you've worked paycheck to pay, or you live paycheck to paycheck, and you know you have to prioritize all of your responsibilities and then your fun, you have the potential to appreciate things more, especially the little things. So, you know, it's, you know, who else understands it? College kids who have, you know, first time being away from mommy and daddy. You know, got to get a job, got to learn what it is to be in the real world, and in the middle of all that, you're also going to school. You also got to pay for school, pay for books, pay for transportation, food. That's why a big thing before, I don't know if it's the same now, but when you would go to college, it'd be like, oh, stock up on ramen noodles. You know, everywhere in the world, especially the country, the prices have gone up for everything, and it's only getting harder. Excuse me. But you know, when you know that you can't pay for everything, when you go to buy something for yourself or for the house that's outside of your normal purchase, especially if you're spending a lot of money, and when I say a lot, living paycheck to paycheck, anything over $75 is expensive. And when you spent more money beyond $75, you're like, hey, this was $75. You take care of it, or I will take care of you outside. You know, when you have guests over, when you have family over, or the people you live with, or even kids, you start to want to teach them how to appreciate what you have. Because some people, you know, you can go to someone's house and they have everything, and something breaks, they'll go, it's all right, we'll just get a new one. You're like, you're fine with this being broken. I understand that you have to replace it, and that's okay to you, but you have to replace it. Oh no, it's all right, I've got the money, I can do it. Huh? I would be flabbergasted to hear someone say that. But if you go to someone like my house and I see you trying to break my Xbox controller, oh no, I don't have the same attitude. Oh no. If I see you rough on the joysticks, yo, ease up, homie.
That controller's $70. I don't plan on buying another one anytime soon. Ease up or put it down.
Cause not rich. And look, replacing a controller, even if I did have it, that's time. That's ordering it or going to go pick it up, bringing it home. Hopefully I got one that you can charge. Put it on the charging dock, let it charge, or put some batteries in it. And then you have to connect it to the console. And then you have to play a game or two just to get some use on it to make sure you know all the buttons work. Time. All my gamers understand what I'm talking about. And then, you know, lastly, when it comes to some humble money, you allow yourself to understand that you don't need everything. And that's a big one. That is a huge one, because the life that we live, where everything is everything, having clothes is everything, wearing name brand is well, it's most things to a bunch of people, but you know, having the shoes, having the clothes. I remember it was a lot bigger when I was in like middle school, high school, because you know, people would, after the South Pole and what was it, the Echo phase, where people started getting into LRG and Polo and Ralph Lauren and all that stuff, you know, where it was a super big deal that brands were a thing. And it put pressure on us as young adults that we had to keep up, because even in middle school, if you weren't, we were all kids acting like we had money to buy our own stuff, but then we would dog on each other because our parents or family couldn't get us what we wanted. So, you know, we'd be, oh,
your shoes is dusty. You've been wearing those shoes for the past 2 years.
And it's like, oh, okay, I'm sorry, I couldn't match your standards to always have the new Jordans to make myself feel relevant. Like, thinking back on that, how many times you've heard someone get clowned on, made fun of, for those who don't speak Ebonics, know someone that was made fun of for having dirty shoes, old clothes. And you're hearing it from these people who are trying to always stay in the newest stuff. I would have hated myself if I understood I was putting pressure on my parents for always trying to stay up with the new gear. That's money. That's money. And I mean, I didn't really understand that my parents were struggling when I was younger. I just knew that we couldn't always get stuff, but it didn't click in my head that it wasn't because, you know, back in the day, we never actually were put in a place to understand that people were struggling. It was always just, oh, you're broke. Your parents are broke. And that would be an insult rather than something to understand. There was no humility in understanding that, okay, someone's family or home has less money than I do. They're less fortunate. I didn't have the capacity to think that way. I think I started to, but, you know, I'd laugh at people getting clowned on. So, set me back a step or two. But then there was people who were very delusional in the sense that, like, oh, because someone's parents or family home didn't have a lot of money, that they should have been doing more with themselves. Not actually understanding why that person couldn't have more money, you know? And we've also instilled in our younger selves, and also the younger generation beneath us, that money was everything. And it wasn't. It just wasn't. But we made it that way. Not us, but, like, you know, society has made money everything. And it's not the way to live. It's a very toxic way to live, because it is in fact not everything. It is just what we use for trade to live in this material lifestyle that we choose. Money wouldn't be an issue If you were to live off the grid, wouldn't at all. Make your own food, hunt for your own food, get your own food, grow your own food, filter your own water, catch your own water, make your own shelter. It's harder for kids. Don't get me wrong. If you have a family, oh yeah, it's much harder because then it's like you have to get kids to listen and understand how to operate in the wild. Oh my goodness, if you're having a hard time with kids being that way under a roof with heat and water, electricity, and Netflix, Coco Melon, I can only imagine how it would be out in the wild. Kid gonna get ape. Are you gonna be hearing this a wolf grinding on? Never mind. Yeah, you don't need everything, and that's okay. And you don't even have to live like a minimalist. You just don't need everything. When you really sit back and think, do I need these shoes? Do I need McDonald's when I have food at home? Like, come on, remember what our moms used to say? Hey mom, can we get McDonald's? As you're driving by McDonald's. No, we have food at home. And you pout.
I want that food.
As an adult, you like, nah, I got food at home. Some of y'all still find a way. Moving on. We're going to talk about humble love. Relationships. How to be humble in relationships, whether it's friends, family, or the love of your life. I feel when it comes to being humble with love, if you reach a point where you can express your emotions in a healthy way, you understand just exactly what you seek in a partner, friend, or family bond. Not only can you begin balancing your wants and needs, but also help those in need. So, wants and needs, let's break it down. In a relationship, you have wants and needs, desires. Let's make it easy, shall we? Let's say, for me, if I was to be the type to want to play video games and have a lot of sex, well, that's impossible because I'm not dating me, right? But there's also stuff to do, a life to live, responsibilities to take care of. So not only can I not enforce that on my partner and family, I can enforce that on my partner and be upset about not getting what I want, because that's very selfish. So in order to balance that, well, we just set up whenever we can, and like I said, gaming on the weekends, and I stream with y'all. But then there's also needs, like being able to eat, being able to sleep, rest, being able to get some alone time. Alone time is healthy when it comes to relationships, you know? Get a good at least hour or two a week. Don't quote me on that because that's usually what I get, and I'm different. I'm built different. I don't know about you. You're weak. Anyway, so when it comes to needs, let's say cooking, eating, right? If you're both working, you and your partner, you know, whoever comes home first should be able to start dinner, cook it, maybe. If you're the one that comes home first and you don't know how to cook, see what needs to be set up. Try to understand, hey, what can I pull out? What can I do this way? You know, whatever. Or if it's an off and on day, like communication is key when it comes to being able to understand how to help each other out, because you're not just helping that one person, you're helping each other. Because if someone has the energy and capacity to be able to come home and just do things fluidly, maybe they might have the energy and capacity to treat you, to show you some attention. But I mean, it all just depends on the dynamic of your relationship, but you have to be able to communicate that. And if you can't communicate that, or if your partner doesn't allow you to communicate that, you might be with the wrong person, or you could be the wrong person that your partner's with. You have to be able to open up to each other and disagree in a healthy manner. But you know, you also have to understand some humility. Like, for instance, oh, you know, my partner was able to have their way and get this. I can switch this around and they can have their way. I don't have to receive what I want tonight, even though I've gotten it 3 nights this week. mindset like that, you know, just be like, oh, hey, you know what? Got you, boo. We'll flip roles tonight. And boom. Humility succeeded. Another thing with humble love is that you can also understand when some people or things are worth the energy. This one was a big one to me. I had to learn this the hard way. And I try to help anyone I can who has experienced or experiencing the same situation. So I'll say it again. You can also understand when some people or things are worth the energy. I don't think I have to explain why it's big, but I will. There's this way to think when it comes to being able to give yourself to people or give yourself to something for people, that when you are depleted, you become a version of you that is probably unrecognizable to you and to whoever is experiencing you, because it's the energy that fulfills you that has you operating as your best self. But when there's nothing there, you're running off a different kind of energy that's being pulled from the depths, which you don't really want to pull from. Moving away from the spiritual aspect, you start to learn when you can actually apply yourself for people or things. Hindsight, waste of time. A lot of people or things, the older you get or the more that you're doing, can be in the moment a waste of time. Or it's just not at this time. I'll say that, you know, instead of just going waste of time, it's maybe a not at this time. But when you start to prioritize who you give yourself to in any way, shape, or form, if needed, if not, and you should be doing it, then this is probably going to help you, because once you start understanding that some people just aren't meant to have all of you, you may start to feel a lot better about what you have left for you to do, how much time, how much energy you have left. Let's say you have a group of friends and, you know, you all like to hang out from time to time, but then individually, some of you will hang out with each other. Or you have friends outside of your normal group of friends, and, you know, you may have a girlfriend or, you know, some fling, but it's just saying that people want your attention. Now, as you start to mature and you get yourself into a lot of positive things, you may start sifting things out of your life to change, because you know that's no longer me, or I no longer want that to be me. Which means, unfortunately, if you think of it in a bad way, you may start losing friends. You may start losing time for friends, and that's okay. If you have good friends, you'll understand that they will understand. As long as you guys can communicate to each other every now and then, if you have what it takes to make time for the little time, you know, like some me time, whether it's for yourself or with the people you can hang out with, if you can do it in a healthy way, then that's really all that matters. You don't have to feel bad about not seeing the people that you want to see all the time, because they're probably doing the same thing. They're probably on the same boat. But even if they aren't, never allow anyone to make you feel bad because you can't give to them. I mean, out of all the time that you guys have hung out, seen each other, exchanged words, communicated, had a laugh, especially with social media these days, you can talk to whoever as often as you want or as they will allow you. But I think we've all gotten to the point where we just expect people to be there for us. But if you can be that person to not only be okay with not seeing or hearing from people, but also be okay with the fact that sometimes you may need time to yourself, so you won't respond as fast as you normally do. You won't feel the need to check your phone so often. You won't feel the need to just be there for people. You can just be there for yourself. You'll find some humility in that, and you know, your friends or whoever it is that you operate with will find humility and understanding, having a mutual understanding that you're all just on a different path now, and it's perfectly fine, perfectly healthy. But Then you have those people who you've come to understand that they weren't always the best to have in your life. They remind you of a negative point in your life, or whenever you hang out with them, you always feel yourself falling back on negative times. Maybe they're the influence, or maybe it's just that whenever you get together, you guys are like, hey, let's have some fun again. And instead of dropping the habits or, minimalizing your time, you just drop the person altogether. I feel like that, depending on how severe it is, dropping the person altogether may be just what you need. And you don't have to say, hey, this is the last time we'll ever speak or hear from each other again because I'm moving on to be a better person and you don't fit that. You don't have to do all that. But you can just start to focus on not doing things like that. And you can even start saying, hey, like, let's do something different. If that person can't accept doing something different, then yeah, you can probably drop that person. Oh, can we do dinner or can we do lunch instead of having to go out and drink? Can we just stay home and talk about stuff that we like instead of driving around? Or if you have a lot of active friends, like, hey, can we just like talk to people instead of trying to fight everyone? And if you have a good friend, like, oh, yeah, no, I'm sorry, let's try it. Let's do that. Yeah, we should be doing something different. Like, we should be growing up. And those are good people to have, because then you may never know, the dynamic could change for the better, and you guys are doing completely different stuff. You're in bed at a decent time, and just the overall bond is a lot better, a lot healthier. Then you have those people who just don't feel like they have to grow up just yet, and yeah, you might need to let them go for now. Don says it can be a juggle, a dance. I concur. I really do. I believe that. And at first, because when you really want to be there for people, yeah, it can be a juggle. Because you, especially for people who are people pleasers, like myself. When you're trying to just please everyone because you know how it is to not get what you want, even in the slightest, and you start trying to give that to everyone who seems to be asking for it, you'll start to realize that you may hit a point where you just feel, like I was saying earlier, depleted, and you won't be able to give like you want to. Or you may start having thoughts that you don't normally have, and you don't want those thoughts, but they start to affect you. All in all, there's a healthy balance. And if you have friends or family who can't understand your balancing because you like to take the mental health approach and understand you got to take care of you before you can take care of anyone else, if they can't understand that, they were never true friends or family to begin with. They were opportunists, just feeding off your energy instead of learning from it, gaining wise from it. And those you might have to put at a good distance, just until you're able to withstand what is to become of hanging out or being around those type of people. Because I've been there. I used to try to tell people all the time, leave myself out all hours of the night, losing sleep, doing things I shouldn't be doing, having to work, after all that. And there are other ways that I could have helped people, otherwise I could have enjoyed myself. But you live and you learn. And so now I understand, instead of saying yes or going, all right, I'd be like, nah, I gotta go. I feel that I'm tired. I'm gonna go lay my ass down. I will see y'all again soon. But tonight, my night's over. Something like that. Been very helpful for me. It's being firm, and you can be respectful and nice when you're firm. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be an ass, but when you're firm, you don't let anyone try to roll you over because it pleases them. Don't feel like that. Don't do that. Now, with bonds and humility, respect goes a long way. Given and received. So kind of, you know, perfect segue from all that. If they don't respect you or your wishes, they weren't there for you at all. But also you have to understand when you're being respectful or disrespectful, because maybe we don't notice it ourselves, but we may be the negative trigger for other people to cut us off. I've been that person. I have. Hard pill to swallow. But also understanding at the same time, I wasn't the best person and people have cut me off, and I'm okay with that. Gives me room for understanding and becoming better, so I don't do that to the next person. So far so good. With it, when it comes to love though, whether it's with you know, a partner, friends or family, you have the, when you're in a neutral state of being humble, you have the ability to understand that love is not linear. It has no linear meaning love is in more than one form. So you can have a partner who loves someone else in a sense that, like, oh, I love them, like I love you as the love of my life, my soulmate, but I love them as a good friend who I know will never let me down. And you don't get jealous about that. You go, no, I totally agree, because I love this person. Even if you or your partner and or your partner are saying it about an opposite sex, which makes it so much better. If my wife was to tell me that she loves another man and it was a healthy love, I'd be like, no, I get it, because I love me some girls too. And we would talk about it, you know, if she's like, oh, I love this celebrity, you don't know him. You weirdo. I've always found that I could never get with that dance, you know, when people be like, I love this celebrity, or he's gonna be my man, I'm gonna have his babies, or, you know, like, you don't know him. That's how you get R. Kelly'd.
I'm out.
But in the sense of love not being linear, you also have the capacity to understand that it's to be appreciated, not taken for granted. And of course, appreciation is also not linear. There's many ways to show appreciation, but there's also many ways to be taken for granted. But it's usually easier to see that you're being taken for granted than it is to, well, no, I think it's equally. I'm gonna pull back on that one. You can equally see that you're being appreciated as well as being taken for granted. Yeah. As we all know, hearing from marriage stories from our elders, the key to a happy, successful relationship and longevity is patience. Patience tends to be a lot easier to manage when you live in a neutral state, when you're humble, when you have some humility. Because you see yourself in that person making the mistake. You see that you're only human and you're making this mistake because you haven't quite yet learned not to make this mistake. Or you may know better and you're a little bit headstrong and you had to be proven that, hey, don't do it. And so you made the mistake. Mistakes are human. Mistakes are meant to be made, no matter big or small. It reminds us not to do it. Whether someone else made the mistake and we go, oh, I don't like the way I feel about hearing about it, I will never do that. Because you just might. But when you make the mistake, you have to understand someone else did it. And it's okay. You just got to work through the consequences. It's okay. Just work through the consequences. And don't be afraid of them. I think when it comes to making mistakes, you just got to show some humility. If you know in the long run your action is going to cause consequence, I would not do it. But if it's in the mindset of like justice or civility, okay, I get it. But if you're doing it out of pure, what's the word, selfishness, then yeah, no. Consequences are coming hard. One thing I've kind of heard and understand though is that to be in a neutral state, disagreements are a lot easier to handle. I feel like once you hit a certain point of humility, you almost don't even want to argue. You hear what the person has to say, and then you understand that, like, what, no matter, depending on who you're having a disagreement or argument with, you might tell yourself, it's not even worth me giving my 2 cents. It's not even worth my input, because it'll just keep going on. You're in a point where you don't understand what I'm saying, and I'm at a point where I understand my interaction is not worth anyone's time. It's understanding when to subjugate yourself into an altercation, you know. Even if it's a healthy debate, there's a certain point where you know that things are gonna arise, and you just go, you know, agree to disagree. Let's just call it and move on. And in a healthy stance, you just kind of shut it down. Humility, being humble. As in, and then lastly, for this this category, this point, is that you have the ability to see the best and worst in others, and yet it doesn't change how you interact with them. I was kind of struggling with writing that last part, but I think I'll just explain it. So, you know, yes, you can see the best and worst in people, but you have this kind of sense of being able to see through people when you can see their best and worst. Because then you can see how they truly are, how they truly operate. And you know how much of yourself to invest in that person. You won't change because they have their good days, or they've made a good grand gesture, or, you know, they've had a bad day and they've made a mistake and they have to go and suffer the consequences. You just kind of understand that they are human. And they are just like you. There's a little bit of you in everyone that you will ever meet, see, or interact with. And you kind of let them in as close as you feel like is necessary. I have people who are pretty much, I consider family. I have people who I won't ever tell them one good thing about me. And then, you know, everything else in between those 2 points. You can't trust everyone, unfortunately. Unfortunately. Then you just can't let everyone in. Some people are, like I was saying earlier, some people just kind of gravitate towards you because they have something they can feed off of, rather than, you know, take in. They just kind of use you. And people like the drama, so they'll come to you for gossip, or they'll share gossip knowing that you'll spill more. Or some people, you know, easy example, F-boys, you know, they're known to go around and be all about themselves, and then find a girl that they see and like, have their way with them, and then move on. Or just people who do that in general. And it's not even always physical. It could also be emotional too. Like, to be around someone who just always needs some kind of emotional validation, and once they've gotten it from you, they go, okay, and then move on to the next person. John says, the crowd favorite, famous and infamous. Very true. Very true. All right, so I did say I was going to oh yeah, I was going to freestyle the next 3 points here. Let's see, what I just do? Work? No, I did relationships. Okay, so work. Being humble about work is kind of just like being humble about money, but it's a little different. Because when it comes to work, like, you have to do the work to get the money for the most part. But the easiest way to be humble is just knowing that you have a job and it's making you money, right? But that's not always enough. for me, no, it wasn't always enough. And I know for a lot of people, just having the job isn't enough, because it's like, how long can I do this job? Am I any good at this job? Am I being treated well at this job? Are they respecting the hours that I can provide to this job? There's so many variables that saying, oh, at least you got a job, just doesn't always cut it. Let's see. Let me see if I can. Sean, help me out here. What do you, if you don't mind, what do you think would be a good outlook on being humble with work, having work, or working? John says, for work and humbleness for me looks like I'm thankful I was able to eat today. That's a good one. That's a good one. I really like that one. Yes. And you know what helps is that if you're in a city that's kind of heavy on homelessness, and you drive around and you see people with signs, or they're just sitting on the side of the road, or they're walking with their belongings in a cart, and they look hungry, it just kind of really, if that's not a humbling experience, then I don't know what'll do it. But if you're the type of person to look at them and go, oh, I'm glad I'm not in that position, but you look at them and go, I wish they were able to have more, you couldn't be more humble. You couldn't show more humility. I mean, other than like, hey, giving them food, giving them money for food. I preferably give them the food or water, because you can always be like, oh, I don't ever know where my money's going if I give it to them. Well, that's the thing. You give it to them to get something. If they do the wrong thing in getting something that they shouldn't be getting, then that's something with them. But then maybe next time you get the food, you get the water. If they decide to get a drink with it, maybe they are celebrating. You never know. That's true, and that's a good outlook. That's a neutral state to be in, because you can go, oh hey, they're gonna get food. They're gonna do what they're supposed to with this money I'm giving them. And then there's the opposite side where you're like, oh no, I'm not giving you this money because you're just gonna get drunk. You're just gonna go get drugs. But that's not your business to say that or to feel that way. If you're gonna give the money, don't worry about what they're getting. I've done it before, but I was also drunk and I felt like such an asshole the next day. I was like trying to tell this dude what to do with the money, and I was like, who the hell was I to tell this person what to do with the money I was giving him? Because I wanted him to, live a better life. That's not my business to tell this man what to do. So I've done that before, and like I said, I wasn't the happiest to remember that I did that, but I never wanted to do it again, and I haven't. I just say, hey, blessings. What do I say? If I ever get the opportunity to do it, I just say, stay safe. Not really much you can say. I don't know what put them out there. I don't know what keeps them out there, but at least be safe. I also think to be in to have a neutral state in humbleness, or just even having humility, is understanding how to work with people. Not just the money aspect, but being able to work as a team. Because a lot of us, we can be like, if you're in a job interview, like, okay, and how do you do in a team setting? Well, I'm good. But that there's those people who go, I want to work alone. You never think of it, but there are people who do. But it's being able to understand how to be a community with your coworkers, even your superiors. And then just it all kind of ties in with the money too. You have this appreciation when it comes to being able to buy your own stuff, pay your own bills, pay bills with a partner, or however it is you have it all set up. Once you get your own money that you can invest into material or food, or however it is that you want to spend your money, you do build this kind of sense of appreciation because it was all earned by you. That's why a lot of us kind of dislike, I'm gonna say dislike, people who have a lot of things handed to them because they have no appreciation at all whatsoever. Good example, I'm pretty sure we're all thinking, rich kids. Mommy and daddy's money got you this, therefore you don't care about it. You know, like being able to get a phone that they didn't pay for, it broke, oops, just gonna ask mommy and daddy for another one. Okay, or you could just go work for your own. I think the big takeaway though when it comes to working and being humble is just knowing that, understanding that you put in the work to achieve your own financial gain and to work with others, and just to help an establishment build their continue their success, only to achieve your own. I think all that ties in together. It's a really good thing to think about. Humble material. This one's easy, because I pretty much just said I summed up everything I need to say with the money part by saying you can't have everything. You shouldn't need everything. Tell yourself, I don't need this. There's an overwhelming abundance of stuff that we have available that we don't need, and it's okay not to have it all, right? You don't have to feel pressured about having the Jordans over the Adidas. Just go buy both when you need it. Or choosing Xbox over PlayStation. Buy both when you can, if you can. I mean, most games are for both platforms. There's only a few games that are exclusive to its own console, but you're not really missing out because the exclusive game to the console is just like the other one on the console. For example, Ghost of Tsushima and Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Same game. You know, can't really say any first-person shooters for PlayStation because Xbox had Halo. What did PlayStation have? I like all consoles. I'm not actually trashing. I can't remember what they had. I don't think they did. No. Yeah, because Xbox had Halo and Gears of War. John says, started at work, had to start stretching mid-shift and finding a corner to try and work out deep knots. Oh boy. And what'd you do after you got home? Wednesday and today, big and solid like a marble. Damn. Did you take any pain meds over the counter or anything? Or did you take your own medicine? Yeah, you know, moving away from the comparisons of video games, even with cars, you know, like I'll say this: we live in this time where we see what people have and we go, I want that. I'm going to work toward that. Or when people who are low income or lower class, I should say, you know, we aspire to achieve things. Like, good example, young kids and rappers, young kids and basketball stars. They have all this stuff. Even football players, like sports or celebrities, they have all this stuff, and we have all this stuff. Prime example: watching MTV Cribs. We got to see their homes that they don't live in, the cars that they don't own, they lease. But you know, we are under the impression that it's all theirs. And so when we see all that, we're like, I also want that. Like, you know how many people wanted a Ferrari, didn't know how to drive a Honda? How many people out here want a Lamborghini but can't speed in a Camry? You don't know how to handle 100 on the highway in a Subaru, but you want 200 on the dash. Same with phones. Everyone, you know, we have iPhone users who always want the newest iPhone every year. For what reason? I don't know. It's the same thing. especially with Samsung phones, the ones that we get in America, not the cool ones that are only exclusive to Europe and Asia. But like, yeah, Samsung and iPhone, two very compatible iPhone or phone providers. You got iOS and you got OS, or Android OS. But anyway, like that, like you're wanting the new phone every year because it has a slightly better camera, but the capabilities your phone have you don't even utilize because you're so caught up in one, having the nicest thing with the brand on it, and two, having that better camera. And then it's gotten to the point to where we start trash talking. Like, I have an Android. I've had an iPhone before, but I am firm on Android because I like the freedom. I like the capabilities. I like the speed. I like just everything that I can do that iPhone can't. In fun, I will make fun of people who have iPhones, but honestly, I understand why people have iPhones, because there is an organization when it comes to having an iPhone. Well, there was. Now all phones have it, but there's just something about iPhones that I can understand why people have them. But for me, I do way more than iPhone is actually allowing people to do. Therefore, I gravitate to Android. But like now, it's like we have people who genuinely will trash another person because they have the opposite. Like, for instance, a lot of iPhones be like, oh, you have Android, your camera doesn't work, you have a crappy camera. It's like, yeah, but you know, I can have a lot of app accessibility and I can download stuff without paying for it. I can do a lot more with my background and my screen, my lock screen, than you can. It just depends on how you want the capabilities of your phone to be. And a lot of times, like, you can dog an Android on the camera, but that's it. Androids can say a bunch of stuff about people who use iPhones, but it's just like Xbox and Microsoft and Sony. Which one do you want? If you want both, cool. It'd be weird to have both a phone and like iPhone and Android, but maybe you can have a Android phone, iPad. But the thing with me and I've Apple is that they meticulously, you will only be able to use that piece of equipment for maybe 3 years before it starts crapping out on you. Androids you can use about 5 to 7 before they start like really sifting out whatever it is that you have, even if it's the newest thing. But you know, a lot of pros and cons of both. I'm not gonna say it for speak on all of them, but knowing you can get a phone that allows you to use it to its full to its 80% extent, not even full extent for that matter, but if you can use your phone to its allocated extent, I think that's the best bang for your buck. But when you're just buying it simply for a camera, save the $1,000 that you're gonna put in on an iPhone and just go get an actual camera. Cameras will last you way longer than that iPhone. You take care of it. I know it's convenient because you can be like, oh, hold on, let me take a picture. Get the camera and take a proper picture. Feel a lot better. Walk around with a tripod on your back like an RPG game. RPG game. Look at the G in the game. Anyway, yes, I know I made a mistake. Don't revolve your life around material. As hard as it is to hear, and you probably don't even care to hear me. Oh, yeah, you can't say that. Look at everything around you. I know. But if I actually wanted to revolve my life around the stuff that I actually wanted, my room, my office would look worse. But I've been there. Like, I would sit there with my low ass check when I was working, at these jobs, and my checks were like, $250 to $300. I'd be like, oh, okay, time to hit the mall. Oh, okay, time to buy this game. Oh, okay, got it. What can I eat? Oh, I've been meaning to eat this. Like, I just spin, 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 instead of understanding that I could gain if I just saved it. But I understand. Tough. You gotta get past that point. It's just overall better, because when you look around at all the stuff you have, you're like, this is junk. All right, last point here. I had this one. I should have had this one last originally, but I understand why I flipped it. It's not easy at first to live a humble, neutral state, you know, life of humility, a modest life. At first, it's not easy. If you've been accustomed to a material life, if you've been accustomed to a boasting life, a goading life, if you've been just all that, like if you're someone who has to brag about themselves, or you envy to the point that it's kind of unhealthy about people who have things that you don't have things that you want to achieve, have a life that you want to gain, if you've been in all that and plus more, at first, if you're trying to change, if you're trying to, you know, live better, live with more humility, it takes time, as everything does. It takes time, because what you're doing is you're morphing yourself to be different. You're morphing yourself to just be a completely different person. And it isn't just, it's not one characteristic that you're changing. Like, you're changing your whole outlook on life. It just starts with one aspect. Like, say, oh, I want to see money differently. You think that, and then you end up seeing much more beyond that differently, because you started with money. Huge thing to start with, might I add. But like, it all takes time, and if you put in the effort and you're patient, I mean, it'll all come to you. And life has this way of giving you what you desire when it understands you're ready. And you could also you can put that in a sense of a religion, of whatever you follow, but it's just kind of like a little treat, like, hey, you know, like you've leveled up, here are the perks of leveling up to this point. And you get them and you enjoy them, as long as you don't do anything to fall back, or, you know, put yourself two steps back. You will continue to enjoy the fruit of your labor. But it does take time. For me, it's just kind of been like an up and down thing, you know? Like, I have my moments where I get it, and I'm just like, yeah, no, I can be this way, I can do it. And then I have my moments where I just kind of like, what's the word? Lack of a better word, ignorant. I tend to be ahead of myself, or I think too much of my own desires, and then I'm reminded as to why I shouldn't be so, I guess, greedy. I think the more I experience life outside of the normal that I have been, I come to understand how to be a little bit more appreciative and humble about everything that I have, where I've come from, where I've gotten, just overall who I am now and what I surround myself with. And I think for me, because I was in that dark point for a while, coming out of it, like, it's like a breath of fresh air, because I'm living a new life, and to know humility, it's easy for me now, because I understand, like, if I made a mistake, I'm like, well, here come the consequences, and I'm gonna learn from them, instead of being like, oh man, like, I don't want this to happen, I shouldn't have did this and that, and I'm filled with guilt. You know, I'm just like, no, I get it, I did that, and I accept it. Kind of having that mindset. Because if I think about it, if I actually go back on all these points, right? With money, I've learned how to control my spending and also, be more aware of of like how much I have. What I still have that mindset of like being able to prioritize, because that's always necessary. Um, but I think I'm a little more giving now because I've been able to have more, therefore I can give more. And I won't ever forget that. But I think it's just the idea of being able to have more. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I have enough, so I don't need any more now. It can go to other places, or I'll just save it for whatever comes next, and things can be in abundance. Um, I've been able to kind of sit with myself and understand who I was as a person, to past friends, family, relationships, flings, whatever it was, and yeah, a lot of reflection. But what I learned about who I was is how I can apply to be better than that. And I can honestly say I've had really good progress, because not only am I doing it for other people, the relationship I have with other people, the relationship with myself, I appreciate way more than I used to. So, whenever I don't feel like being around someone, or if I know I need like my alone time, I will respect it and just be like, I would hope that if people are like hitting me up, or they're calling me and I don't answer, or I'm just like, I just don't kind of need that at the moment, I would only hope that they respect that. I just needed some mental me time, not just me time, but mental me time. And I think the people that I keep in my circle all understand. They're all pretty much similar too. So like if I make a call, if I send a text and I don't get anything back, I'm not like, if I try to call, I'm like, well, probably busy, probably sleep, probably working. I don't know. But there's always that point where it's like, okay, like look for any clues just in case you have to understand that something's like not right. But nothing's ever gotten that far so far. So with work, I even though I'm not working now, like just being able to look back, I understand. Actually, no, here's a good one. How I operated working at the hookah lounge to how I operated being at home working for IT. I understood like there was a lot of things that I could have done differently, done better. Even though I was really good at my job, I could have been a better model for that place. But I mean, again, no excuses, but even though I wasn't in the best headspace, I still tried to do the best that I could. But no, like after working in a different environment, I was like, yeah, I get it. Like I can be better, and I will aim to be better. So far, so good. With life, with material, I'll start there. With material, like, I don't really feel the need to buy every Spider-Man thing that I see like I used to. Or every Dragon Ball thing that I saw like I used to. Or, like looking online, seeing Mega Man stuff, and I'm like, oh, don't have that one yet. I don't feel the need to do that anymore, because I'm like, I have enough. And, even that's a lot. So I'm in a better space about having things in abundance, and I don't, because clutter can also, accumulate a lot of energy, and a lot of stale energy can turn negative. So you don't want that. And then lastly, with life, oh man, it's an obvious change for the better. My outlook is so much different, healthier. I used to hate the world, and now I appreciate it. But all that was just kind of like a reflection on who I was and who I like, or what I surrounded myself with. But it's not the same anymore. Yeah, I definitely wake up a different person every day, which is very, very good. But in a sense of living in that neutral state, being humble, having humility, like I am able to understand when I'm wrong and be okay with it. I there are times where I would, in a sense, kind of get defensive, but I'm curious as to why someone would think opposite of me. But if someone's attacking me, then yeah, I would get defensive, and then I like to do my best to get them to understand why that's wrong. That one I can kind of get rid of, because like I was saying earlier, like you get to a point to where you realize like not a lot of people require your energy, so even attention. So like I shouldn't need to argue with people, which I probably only argue with like 1 or 2 people. If I know that there's something escalating, I'm just like, I don't need to do this. And it's younger me would be like, oh, you know, I don't want to seem weak, bail out. I'm gonna show them what I got. I'm gonna show them what I'm made of. I'm gonna show them that I'm tough and I can stand here, and even if I lose, I'll lose with pride. Now I'm just like, win or lose, what's the point? I'm wasting time and energy here. I don't need to be here. We're both gonna get in trouble. We're all gonna get in trouble. Let's just go home. Not get in trouble today. It's a good feeling, for sure. I like my time. I like my space. I like being able to, you know, not be uncomfortable, being inebriated, being high off things that I was high off of. It was very uncomfortable, but I did it because it also felt good in the moment. I don't have to do that anymore. And then also being able to stream, meeting new people, having people stop in, saying what's up, having conversations like we had with Dies Fallen earlier about him being in Germany. Like I enjoy that. I really do. But like I was saying before, this is the year of our personal level up. I'm here to share what I've experienced and learn what more is to be experienced. So all in all, this is the start for all of us. Be our better self. And I'm helping you, you helping me. We're all the help that we need. And we're gonna get there. But I really felt like this topic was important because what better way to start our growth than to understand how to be better for ourselves and to another person in the best way possible. Just beyond respect, beyond presence. What can resonate in you, what you can give, can resonate to someone else. It's just like the seed that spreads positivity. I'm gonna go ahead and tap out here. I appreciate everyone who had stopped in. I appreciate the follow from Dies Follow once again. For everyone that's going to be watching this, I appreciate you tuning in, and feel free to hop in on our live streams whenever. We are at the same locations here on Twitch and YouTube. It won't change, but we've also got a Discord channel active as well. You can find it on the link to the invite in the bio of these channels. This is a multi-stream, so I don't have just one to look at, but yeah. Everyone else, y'all have a good one. I'll see you around.